Hi friends, it's Sarah Millerhouse here, and I am excited to share a new layout with you today for Shimmerz Paints, and I am using the brand new Color Splash Glossy acrylic sprays for this layout, and I absolutely love them. They might be my new favorite thing that Shimmerz has ever made. So I did start this layout by going ahead and adding some texture paste through a stencil. The stencil is from Pear Tree Cut Files, and it's just little random circles all over, and I kind of added that texture paste down the middle, and then I sat that off to dry. So then I took another sheet. This is Foundations Mixed Media White Cardstock, and I took another sheet of that that did not have any texture paste on it, just a smooth piece of paper, and I started adding the sprays, the Color Splash sprays, and I absolutely adore them. So I kind of knew where I was going with this, so it's gonna look like a hot mess as I am doing this in the process, but when you see the final layout, it'll kind of make more sense. So what I did is I took the colors that I had. That pink color is called Pinking of You. I started with that one, and then I added the yellow Squeeze the Day, and I just sprayed them on. I kind of wanted them to mix and move around and kind of like make some like swirls of colors and some splotchy mixes of colors. So I was really good with that. The green is called Once Upon a Lime. Super cute names. The kind of aqua-y blue, the one, it's on the left side of the layout right now. That's called Sea Breeze. And then the blue color is Rockin' Robin. So I started with those 5 colors, and I kind of just sprayed them around. So the thing that I love about these sprays is it's an acrylic spray. So it's gonna dry glossy. It does dry with a glossy finish, and so like it has some shine to it, and as it hits the light. And I loved how the colors, when I mixed them, they're very opaque, so they gave a really good coating on the paper in the background. And then when I did splatters, so here what I did, so you saw me, I started by spraying, and then I took my paintbrush, I opened the bottles of spray and took my paintbrush and kind of just dipped it in and then splattered it all over. And so what I love about this is that as I splattered those colors, they stayed their own color. So sometimes when you're using mixed media or different kinds of mediums, different kinds of sprays and paints, when you splatter a wet medium onto another wet medium, you'll have mixing and blending and those kinds of things. And what I really liked about the way that the splatters did is they actually held their color and held their shape. So it's not as easy to tell on video or on camera, but when on the final layout, like there's actually texture to this paint where it sits on top of the paper. So it's really cool, and the colors kept their vividness, and then also like where I intentionally mixed with a paintbrush, they did mix really well. So I thought that was really cool. And then that last color I added was the Color Splash Gold Digger. So that's one of those same acrylic sprays. Really, really cool. Okay, so while I sat that off to dry for quite some time, I wanted it to be really good and dry, I started cutting out some things that I knew I wanted to go on the layout. So I am going to be using the Happy Days, the new Happy Days collection by Cocoa Vanilla Studio. And I pulled out a bunch of flowers and leaves, and I did do some fussy cutting around all of those to trim off the white borders, because I like to trim off white borders. And I did that. I did leave on that title, I'm going to be using Happy Days as my title, and on those pieces I did leave the white because I liked how those letters looked attached together. So those are just some things. Okay, and then what I did with that piece of paper that I did all those sprays on is I ran it through my Cricut machine with just different sizes of circles. The biggest one is 4.5 inches, and then I did random sizes from there, and I cut those circles out. And I do use the poster board setting with more pressure when I'm cutting the Foundations Mixed Media cardstock, because it's very thick. and then it had all of that acrylic paint on top, or all of that acrylic spray on top. So I did cut it poster board setting and Cricut with, and you can then, like, it defaults to regular pressure. I went ahead and did more pressure in the Cricut design software before I cut it. So that's just a little tip to help that go a little bit easier. And then here, what I'm doing on that background, this is going to be the background of my layout. I took that same medium, so the color splash, Pinking of You color, and I added that to the paper that had all of the texture paste on it. So the circles in the background. And here I will tell you that it finishes a little bit differently. Like, it looks a little bit different on that background. I did add a lot of water to this. So the water seemed to take away some of that glossy finish. So if you're wanting to have a true glossy finish on using this medium, then I wouldn't add a whole lot of water to it, but it didn't bother me at all. I love the color, and I wanted that to be splashed all over the background. So the water just helped me kind of move it around, and made it a little bit more transparent in some places. And then it remained opaque where I didn't move it around with the brush. So that's just a few little tips. And then this is a piece of patterned paper from that Happy Days collection, and I am just adding that just to the edges, the left edge and the right edge. And then pretty much everything else on the layout, the rest of the paper, or the rest of what would normally be patterned paper, is going to be the paper that I made with the sprays. So here I have 4 sweet photos from our Jamaica trip. And if you follow along and watch my videos, you know that I said in one of my last videos that I kind of lost my mind and I started scrapbooking. I don't know why. I started scrapbooking our Jamaica trip backwards. So this is one of our last days in Jamaica, one of our last full days in Jamaica. These pictures, we spent it at one of the resorts that we were at on the beach. So it was a super duper happy day where we just enjoyed being together and didn't do a whole lot except sit on the beach and eat good food and drink some fun drinks. So here, what I'm doing is I'm taking those circles that I made with all of these beautiful sprays, and then some of them, like that top one, I glued to the background. And then from there, I'm going to be adding the circles with different levels of craft foam because I want there to be dimension on the back of the layout. So, and I will tell you, I had to use a lot, like I did have to use a lot of glue to get anything to stick to it. So, to stick to that background. So I do go back and end up adding even more glue, and it does stick finally. But I did have to use a lot of wet glue. And the different levels of craft foam anyway help give dimension to that layout, to the background. And I love how these circles turned out. I mean, like, it's one of my favorite things I've ever made. I love how that medium looks. It's kind of like stained glass, but not really stained glass. It's like, I don't know. I just love how it looks. And I love the way that the finish, like you can kind of even see here that my light that's on my table is having a glare off of that because it's got that glossy finish. So it's really, really super cool. And I wish you could see it in person because I love how it looks. Okay, so here I'm adding the photos and the flowers that I fussy cut. I am adding those, and I do add just a small little piece of craft foam in the centers behind each of those flowers. So I just adhere down the center because I want all of the edges to be able to be bent up and curled up. And I kind of wanted to make it I wanted the flowers and the photos to make a trail down the page. So you can kind of see, if you follow the line, it just kind of makes a curvy line down the page. And then I went back and took apart some of those sprigs of leaves over there, cut those apart, and then made some little clusters of leaves around each of the flowers. And this layout does have a lot of great dimension. and texture. Okay, and then here what I'm doing is I'm going and adding some crystals and half pearls to the centers of the flowers, and then just around the little clusters that I've made. Just for a little bit more shimmer and shine. Can't help myself. And then I took pops of color. I think those were all pops of color from scrapbook.com, and added those around the layout. I just like it, adds another little detail. And then here's some close-up some close-up images. And you can kind of see that glossy finish, hopefully, and that shine. Oh my gosh, I love it. Love it. And so that is the finished layout. So I'm going to put a link below to the Shimmerz website so that you can check out those these fabulous, that they're called Color Splash, one more time. And if you do place an order, be sure and put my name in the comment section of your order, and you will receive a free gift. So you can just write Sarah Millerhouse in that comment, and that'll be great. And I hope you enjoy the process, and I hope you have an awesome day. Bye, guys.